Shaun Tan.
Hello.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Good to see you again.
You too.
I just want to have a bit of a chat with you. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Take a
Excellent.
seat.
Thank you. Now, Shaun, you've had an incredible year. All this interest in your work and all the accolades you've received, has that interrupted your work process? And while you're about it, can you give us any insights what you're up to?
It has interrupted the work process. I had a whole lot of projects planned for the year, but it's a welcome interruption. Part of it has involved quite a bit of travel, which is not something that isn't necessarily conducive to doing illustration work. It's a very, as you can see, very localized practice. At the moment, I'm working on a picture book, and this has been sort of in my mind for years, and I've had difficulty getting started, but that's normal for me.
So how long has it been underway, the picture book?
This particular one, I probably started it about 5 years ago, and then stopped it, started again, shelved it, started it again, and constantly trying to find the right voice for it.
Oh, right.
And
So you must sort of really just work through it though, mustn't you?
Yeah, it's like a marathon. Most of my work is really comes good through revision. The initial ideas are terrible, but over time they evolve and change, and by the end of it, it's unrecognisable. But it's actually a lot better than the thing I started with. So I've learnt to be patient.
So I guess lots of people would actually think that it comes easily for someone like you, that you've got this wealth of ideas you pull from, you draw from.
Yeah.
But it's sculpturing it, isn't it? It's really working on it constantly.
It's painful. 95% of everything I do doesn't see the light of day. It's just not quite good enough. It's sort of almost good. It's an idea without a soul, and there comes this point in a project where something clicks, and it can take a week. It can take 5 years, but then this soul kind of gets breathed into the form, and you understand what it's actually about. Most of the time, I don't know what my work's about until quite late.
So you must have a lot of interest in you, and there's lots of different groups of people who, in a sense, want a piece of you. There's animators, storytellers, publishers. How do you go about dealing with them and still find time to find that inspiration and the new stories?
It's not difficult, because I've been working now as a freelance illustrator for about 15 years or more, and the process is pretty much the same. You have requests to do certain work, or you might have an idea yourself that you're wanting to put to somebody else, and everything's about selecting and choosing and trying to plan how long is this project likely to take, then adding on another 6 months. It is. I guess things have slowed down a little bit in the sense that I have to do a lot more managerial work. I have some assistance with that, but still it's very different now from back when I started working in my parents' garage or in my bedroom, just drawing these little things and sending them off, and having all the time in the world to think about my ideas. Now I have to actually mark out little territories of creative thinking time.
Well, you're speaking about those experiences this year. Has any of the events been to all those things? Have any of them given you any inspiration for future work?
Well, they have. I mean, a lot of this stuff happens subconsciously, so it'll be like 10 years later, I'll suddenly get an idea for something I realise has something to do with a thing that happened a long time ago. Part of the problem I have is I don't respond immediately to anything. It takes a long time for things to kind of make sense for me. Yeah. I'm a very slow responder. A lot of my stories are actually about characters who don't express immediately, but there's a delayed response. I find that a really interesting dilemma. And certainly I'm sure there's going to be a big influence.
Shaun, you first won the WA Premier's Children's Book Award and the Premier's Prize back in 2006 for The Arrival, and that's a work that's gone on to win many other prizes and awards. Now, did you think it was going to be that successful?
No, it was a big surprise when I was working on it, and it was a long period of being quite isolated, and it was the most difficult book to do by far. And part of it was feeling that it wasn't working most of the time, and it was something of an experiment. I was very curious to know if I could sustain such a lengthy narrative without words, just using images. which is technically really difficult too because of all the continuity issues and structural issues. And by the time I finished it, it's funny, my attitude towards the book was, well, the next one will be better. You know, I was really kind of disappointed with it. I don't know why. I'd solved all the problems in it, but I guess I'd spent so long, 5 years, that it started to look invisible to me. And I was just glad someone was publishing it, you know. I thought, well, at least it will be published, you know, regardless of how well it does. And so when it did really successfully, not just here but internationally, and really quickly too, I was a bit shocked, you know.
Yeah.
Have to try and replicate that somehow.
How did it feel when you won the premiers?
Oh, really great, actually. It's funny because, you know, it might not be the biggest award in the world in terms of national or international awards, but for me it was one of the most important because I'd been nominated for that award many times previously, and you're competing against novelists as a picture book illustrator, and that's quite difficult because, you know, novels are quite comprehensive, creative works, as are picture books, but it's very difficult to do this apples and oranges judging, and so, and the quality of the work produced in West Australia is, I think, disproportionately high, and so I was never successful, and I was always thinking, God, what does it take to, you know, get a look in these awards? So when The Arrival finally won, you know, both its category and then the book of the year, I was really stunned. You know, it was fantastic. It's a shame I couldn't have been there. It was the one time that I couldn't be there for the actual awards, and I got it. So it was
Well, it's
great.
always nice to be recognised by your hometown too, isn't it?
Well, that's true. A lot of the people there knew my work intimately, not just work that's published in books, but all the other stuff that I do, because it's a community that keeps an eye on itself.
So you've broken lots of new ground in your career, and you're continuing to do so this year, because this year you're the first young author to be recognised under the WA Premier's Book Awards Hall of Fame. And that means you're going to be joining the likes of Catherine, Susanna Pritchard, Elizabeth Jolly, Dorothy Hewitt, Randolph Stowe, Mary Durack and Tag Hungerford, just to name a few. That must be terribly exciting for you.
Well, fantastic, especially because I grew up reading a lot of those writers, and it's so funny when I think about me as a you know, wide-eyed teenager, you know, looking at these novels and thinking, you know, how do people achieve these things? How do they get to this level? I think it's also all of those writers. I feel deeply connected to the West Australian landscape. You know, both the physical and the cultural landscape, and that's something I feel that certainly runs through my work, even though for many people it's not obvious. I think for people in Perth it kind of is.
Yeah, they get it, don't they?
Yeah, they can see the landscapes behind all the weird creatures and the surreal universe. Even the surrealism of the work is fundamentally West Australian somehow.
You've been involved in many projects, but could you just tell us a little bit about your involvement in the Indigenous Literacy Project?
I think I was first approached by them to do a couple of events which involved doing live drawings and auctioning off the drawings, which were very successful. Yeah. Again, one of those difficult situations where I'm forced to draw in front of somebody. But that went really well, and you know, it drew my own attention to the organisation, and I thought, you know, what a fantastic thing. It does make you sort of pause and reflect on the value of books in your own life and your own childhood. It's something we take for granted because they're always around. But if they aren't around, that vacuum is really noticeable. And the effects can be, I think, potentially devastating if you don't have access to quality literature, because what it is like the best storytelling that there is. It's a condensation of cultural ideas in an accessible form. And to understand that from an early age is just essential. And, you know, reading's a very egalitarian thing. And so, you know, what better ambition than to try and make reading as available as possible, especially to remote Indigenous communities that might not have easy access. So, yeah, I've become very interested in that organisation and supporting it.
Shaun Tan, thanks very much for your time. You're a good man.
Thank you. Thanks. You too.